Welcome back. You're watching The Money Show on ET. Now, we just had an in-depth discussion on essentially how and where can you invest your money before the 31st of March 2020 to ensure that you don't end up shelling out a whole lot in taxes and you can reduce your tax bill. Well, let's move on and talk about another extremely pressing issue, and that is air quality in India. If you guys have been reading the papers of late, right here in Mumbai as well, the air quality was extremely poor. In fact, on the 20th of Feb, that's today, the air quality is at 214. Just 2 days ago, Mumbai actually saw the worst air quality in a year at the onset of summer. And you know, this is not just a Mumbai phenomena. 6 of the country's most polluted cities are in UP for that matter. Jharkhand is the most polluted city in India. Delhi, in fact, is the 10th most polluted city in India. And all over the world as well, Indian cities, unfortunately, are right up there when it comes to cities with the worst air quality. You could blame it on several factors, but unfortunately, it is something that's directly impacting our health. Enter health insurance. At least that is one product that will not let it directly impact our wallet. So we'll get you a lowdown of what are the financial implications of living in a country with no clean air. We have with us today, joining in, Kapil Mehta, co-founder and CEO of SecureNow.in. Kapil, thanks so much for for joining us. This usually used to be an NCR region phenomena, right? Just at the onset of winter, you had this thick blanket and envelope of smog essentially drifting into the city that would hamper visibility, that would hamper our lungs, among other things. But now, of course, it's become an India-wide phenomena, unfortunately. What are the possible costs associated and, of course, obviously, the damning implications on your health when it comes to bad air quality?
Well, putting insurance aside, I think the obvious impact is that the number of diseases linked to pollution has shot up. Surprisingly, things like heart disease or stroke are very, very directly correlated to air pollution in general. And of course, the pulmonary related diseases, asthma. So that we're just seeing the incidence of that go up. And the issue with some of these diseases is that the impact on the lungs is not reversible in many cases. So I think there's a substantial impact of air pollution which is chronic in nature because it builds up over the years and can't be reversed.
It certainly is pretty scary. So, Kapil, how does essentially health insurance come in? I mean, like you mentioned, right, some of the implications on the health are quite severe and they are irreversible. So when we know that the air quality around us is deteriorating, and when I go to the health insurance company and I tell him that, look, I live in Delhi or I live in Mumbai, does it naturally mean that, it's possible that my premium cost as well would be higher because, my environment is not exactly the most conducive for my health?
Yes. So up till date, the way health insurance has been priced has by and large been the same rates across the country, with a few insurers doing some differences. But what I think is likely to happen is that we are going to see more of city-wise pricing where, you were speaking about the 5 or 6 locations which have high air pollution. There will be a loading, there could be a loading on premium in those places. It's not yet happened, but I'm anticipating that there could be a move in that direction. What's also, when we analyze the claims that come with health insurance, if I looked at it maybe 4 or 5 years ago, the top 2-3 issues used to be heart disease, infections, those used to be the typical diseases. Now, when I look at the top 2, the top issue claims are still on infectious diseases like dengue and other diseases, viral infections and so on. But number 2 on the list is lung-related, pulmonary-related issues, which are coming primarily from air pollution. And the most impacted by this are either the elderly above the age of 60 and many, many little children.
Okay, all right. Kapil, simple question. Many of us are covered with our group insurances, especially if you're salaried. Your employer, of course, has this group insurance that covers all the employees. God forbid, let's say if I have a severe disease that is associated with poor AQI, would this group insurance cut it?
It would cover it, but it would require you, if you have to be hospitalized because of the problem, so you have asthma, an asthmatic attack or a breathing problem, and you stay a day in the hospital, then the insurance will step in and cover it. And in fact, the regulator has made sure that asthma and other lung related diseases cannot be excluded. But if you have a more sort of a softer, slow, chronic issue, which doesn't require hospitalization, that unfortunately in most insurances is not covered. There are a few plans that will give you an OPD benefit where you can sort of buy the medication or the air masks and so on. But if I were to generalize, I think in 75 to 80% of the insurances that would not be covered unless you're hospitalized.
Okay, all right, fair enough. You know, there's also all of these top-up insurances. There's critical insurance as well, Kapil. Would you recommend then that, in times like these, maybe individuals should amp up their current sum assured with a top-up insurance, or for that matter, just take out a separate critical insurance policy?
I think the first thing everybody should get is a good quality regular Mediclaim insurance which covers all diseases, because air pollution is a severe issue. But I'm in Delhi, so I can speak about Delhi, that you also have dengue in a certain season, and then you have the other viruses which come. So rather than get too much into product specific insurances, buy this general Mediclaim which covers hospitalization due to anything. Make sure it's a high sum assured. I can tell you that in a metro city you ought to be having not less than 15 lakhs of cover, because that's how much critical illness can cause to get treated. And once you have that in place, then definitely consider the standalone critical illness plans. Those are extremely comprehensive. A common plan will cover 30 to 40 diseases. In some cases, it can go up to 100. And but by that second, first get your main insurance in place. I think that's quite important.
Fair enough. Now, I just want to understand also that a basic health insurance that you have, forget about this critical, etc., just to ensure that our viewers are aware, what would it not cover, Kapil?
The basic health insurance will not cover pre-existing conditions for a certain number of years. That number of years varies between 2 and 4 years. So if, for example, you're suffering from asthma before you buy the insurance and you've been diagnosed for it, then for 4 years, whatever is the period in the insurance, but not more than 4 years, that will be excluded. That is the single biggest exclusion which is there in the insurances. The other thing which is excluded is experimental therapy, not yet sort of proven scientifically. Apart from that, actually, the number of exclusions are absolutely minimal. And this has really happened over the past 12 to 18 months, where the regulator's taken out a series of guidelines that have specified just the bare what can be excluded, and it's really a minimal list of the kind that I'm talking about.
There was this entire, I think there's recently been a change in the guidelines as well when it comes to pre-existing diseases. Kapil, if you could just actually run our viewers through that, because I know that the insurance company as well, the IRDAI as well has sort of purely for transparency purposes, etc., listed down these list of diseases. So if you could just run our viewers through that as well and what it essentially means.
Yes. Of course. Yeah, the biggest change has been in the way pre-existing diseases are defined. And earlier, I'll just sort of tell you the big issue. What used to happen is that if you had been diagnosed or had symptoms of a certain condition, then that could be classified as pre-existing. So let's say, one of the problems of having a liver issue is that you feel tired and fatigued. So if you're feeling fatigued and you, after buying the insurance, developed a liver condition, the insurer could say that, look, you had signs of tiredness before, so it was a pre-existing condition and therefore your claim is not payable. What has happened now is that the regulator has said that these signs and symptoms are not good enough. It must have been diagnosed by a doctor that you are suffering from liver disease for something to be classified as pre-existing. And in a way, the responsibility of proving this has shifted to the insurer, because they got to look at the records and say that this was a pre-existing condition. So I think from the viewer's point of view, this is excellent, because there's the claim settlement rates or the repudiation will certainly go up, and the reputations will go down, just because pre-existing has been defined so sharply. And I think there have been maybe 15 to 20 changes of different kinds. But in my mind, this one change is the most significant which has taken place.
Okay, that's extremely important to note. And in fact, I think there was a change just recently as well. The IRDAI came out with a notification essentially when it comes to fine-tuning this list of diseases as well. Okay, just to understand, let's say if our viewers are now going to listen to this interview and essentially go call their insurance agent asking for a Mediclaim policy, what would you recommend they look at when it comes to the fine print? There are various jargons, in the insurance industry, like optimum cover, then, indemnity covers, etc. So do you think that's important to have in your insurance policy?
I think, for the viewers, what you should look at is look at the number of years that pre-existing conditions are excluded. The shorter, the better. But you will find the shortest is typically 2 years. The maximum is 4 years. So take something which is 2 or 3 years. That's the sort of important product feature to look at. The second thing to look at is that many insurances have something called a room rent cap, and which puts a limit on how much which kind of hospital you can stay in. So try and take the insurances which do not have a room rent cap, which give you the flexibility of deciding whether you want to be in a single room or a double room. Of course, those are more expensive. So I'm assuming that you can afford to pay for it. But third is, look at price. The health insurances have become fairly economical. And fourth thing which you must absolutely look at is the claim settlement ratio. These are published for the health insurers. And in fact, there are some claims handbook which you can find on the Broking Association website and so on, which will tell you what is the claim settlement of different insurers. And that's, I think, a very good dipstick for you to look at. So if you look at these 3-4 things, if you look at, you're going to get a good insurance. But I would also like to reassure the viewers that because of the way the health insurance regulations work, it's very difficult for you to buy a bad insurance, just because the sort of performance thresholds and the minimal exclusions have all been set. So you don't have to worry tremendously about it, but you can still get a good deal by looking at these 3-4 things I mentioned.
Okay, great. This was certainly very helpful, Kapil. Thanks so much then for joining in. If any of you guys still do not have a Mediclaim, if you're not covered in your group insurance, those were some very interesting and important tips as well shared by Kapil Mehta on and giving you guidance on how to pick and choose your Mediclaim in such times. Okay, well, on that note, we will slip into a very short break. But when we return, we have the upcoming long weekend. How can you spend it in the best, in the most productive way without shelling out a lot for your pocket? And also for all those guys who did not pre-plan but still want to just get out of town, we'll get you some of the best places and hideouts near your city.